Welcome everyone to the next edition of Inside Talent, the special edition powered by Match 2. Our guest today is Dani Monaghan, and she is coming to us from Seattle. Dani, is that right?
Correct.
And then we've got my co-host today, Doug Berg. Doug, how's it going?
Phenomenal.
Doug's about to get in the pool. He's currently in the Cabo region of Southern California, we say.
Safe and sound, by the way.
Safe and sound, that's right. This will premiere shortly after recording, so this will all be topical to Mexico. I just got back from Mexico. We were just discussing this, and so there's some craziness about there. But Dani, tell us what's been going on with you. You've been busy.
It's a busy time of the year. Of course, with Expedia Group being a travel company, you know, Q4 is a big Q3 and Q4 are really big quarters for us. Q1 as well. And so we were, you know, marching towards a really great fourth quarter, which thankfully it was. But then there's also a lot of internal activities going on with performance reviews and comp. And planning for the year and headcount planning. So it's a busy time, but it's a really fun time, but very busy.
So do these hiring seasons mimic your other stops? I mean, you've been Microsoft, Amazon, Uber, Google, now Expedia. There's some nuance to Expedia, I would imagine.
No, there actually isn't. The corporate hiring, you know, the company itself is about 16,000 people, and about half of that is product and engineering. So that's a very similar hiring cycle to all of the other tech companies. Mm-hmm. You know, then we have marketing, and of course we have corporate services, and we have our brands. And then we have a very large organization that is a support organization, but again, not really different to what I experienced at Uber. Pretty much year-round hiring, but certainly there are times when the hiring spikes, and often unexpectedly, and we scramble. But that's the life of recruiting in these worlds.
That's right. These are wacky times, for sure, right? And you've been a couple of times, well, recently in December and coming up again, I think you have been a moderator at Wires Connect in Seattle, right? Talking about leading with intelligence, but really, you know, about AI in hiring, which Doug and I talk about all the time, but it's everywhere. But has leadership caught up with, you know, what this growing need is?
I think that's such a good question, and you could probably write a thesis on this, because when I think back to when I started, you know, in the industry back in the Ice Age, leadership basically sort of meant the smartest person in the room, the person with the expertise, experience, you know, personal authority. Those were your leaders. It is absolutely not that anymore. Absolutely not. And I think it's going to be a hard change for folks that are probably later in their career, and a good learning curve for folks that are earlier in their career. I think that today, in terms of leadership, you're thinking of intelligence in many, many different ways. And as I said before, I don't think it's just IQ and the smartest person. It's really the smartest system in the room, not the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And we're all learning at the, you know, speed of light right now. Every day, I learned something new, and I've been talking about AI since I implemented the first Paradox chatbot in 2017.
Oh
right?
my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
with the Legis. And were you already on my fantasy football league at that point?
I might have been. It's that's hilarious. I might have been. Hasn't been that many years.
That's right. So, Doug, your perspective, leadership is changing, right? You don't have autonomy, it seems like, anymore, like Dani was saying, over knowledge of capital in any arena right now, especially in talent.
Yeah, look, like Dani said, everybody's got access to the same information. Whether Claude's informing you or ChatGPT or whoever's writing your script, it's kind of like great music, right? It's like whoever can sing the song, whoever can synthesize the ideas, whoever can inspire and get ahead of tangibly the thinking, set the expectations, and then get everyone motivated to come behind the direction of what you're doing is where the leadership is still going to be. Right. So, I think there's so much information laying on the floor everywhere, but, who's going to make sense of it and give it a vision and then really drive it in ways that everybody can connect to. And I think that's what's still missing in most leadership situations today. So,
it's interesting. My last call was with a company that's got a unique set of problems, and they're all unique. And Dani, you said this a second ago, it's who's got the best system. And their problem is they've got, let's say, a fountain ATS, but a really clunky application process that puts a lot of weight on the candidate for heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. And then the candidate has to pay for their own assessment because they end up becoming kind of a free agent to this organization to then be a customer service or other type of agent for big companies. And so I brought up the idea, Doug, you'll love this, of the candidate having a portable thing that they could bring around to other companies, right? Their own place and proof of things. And, that seems like it would be a good system for them, but not every situation is the same. In fact, everyone I talk to, let's say everyone's got Workday, and no two instances have the same set of issues because of the system. So, Dani, you're dealing with a lot of moving parts and a lot of tech.
Yeah.
In your tech stack. Are companies moving too fast right now, or not fast enough to keep up with all the nuance that's happening on a daily basis?
I think companies are still in the cautious discovery phase. Yeah. I do see companies in some of the circles that I run in are doing some really interesting things with AI specifically. But I think what I see a lot is people taking their current systems and processes and thinking, oh, yep, we'll just put AI on it and it'll be great. And the current system and process is broken. And so in that sense, I think some companies are moving too fast because really you need to step back and redesign and then look at your supporting systems.
Right, because if you're just, and boy, Doug, you hear this, Dani, you hear this, people say, hey, we got budget for AI, we want to add AI, yes. Right? Yes. That's artificial idiocracy right there is what that is. Yeah, all right. So there's a lot of misconceptions about AI, right? And we're seeing it at the board and executive level. They don't really understand, first of all, what the real benefit and value of having AI in certain places is. And then there's a lot of misconception about bias and risk as well, right? And what we, I think, have to try to explain a lot is that, there's been automation and AI and matching technology in all of our systems for years. Right. This is not brand new. What AI is doing is to help us make and summarize decisions more quickly. But it depends. Like, I heard recently that there are 140 new startups with AI in their tech offering a week right now.
Well, I remember the .com era where suddenly everybody is X.com, Y.com. Right. Like everybody now is an AI company.
Yeah. Yeah. And for what it's worth, I think some of them are very good, right? I mean, I look at some of these tools and they're done well. And most of them, if they're really good, are just going to get acquired. Because bigger companies don't want them in the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I liken it to how our smart home evolution happened, right? Remember when Alexa showed up and you could talk to it and it was okay. And maybe it could turn on one light bulb or turn on two things. But as things started to come online, like, wow, I can open my blinds, I can change my thermostat, I can start my hot tub, I can, it's like, I think that kind of metaphor is what's going to start to happen, especially in the talent acquisition suite. And so whoever owns the Alexa, the hub, the centerpiece of it, right, it is really going to be the winning infrastructure that can enable the types of not just automations, but the types of connectivity, the types of updated information, right? Like facilitating what I call, I like to say application without collaboration is just frustrating. And so, we can't just have our candidates be data entry operators or people that can use AI to copy a job description, call it a resume and throw it over the fence. Like, that's not the answer. And that's what's happening at scale, because it's the only thing until we offer a more collaborative and interactive and transparent application process. We're replicating the recruiter to candidate conversation as a part of the application. Recruiter gets the benefit, candidate feels involved, and the output is still way better than just doing it, where the candidate's in the dark and we're deciding things kind of post-mortem. And we've not changed the industry at all. And so, we call it automation, but it's just processing and counter processing the attack that's happening on each side. It's not really transforming and improving things. So
right. Craig, I think you maybe I'm just making you go down that path, but I think you started talking a little bit about risk aversion, where we've actually been doing matching for years and years and years, and suddenly it's become a big issue now. I would also argue, and I see this every day, that AI actually helps us uncover candidates that we might not have uncovered before. We are in a situation which I haven't seen this in many, many years, where we post a job and we get thousands of applications in a few days, particularly also in our university, early in career roles. There is no way a human recruiter can go through thousands of resumes, whereas AI can. And so for me, I see an advantage. Yes, I think ultimately the human makes the decision, but I struggle to understand how this could not be a really phenomenal tool for us to ensure everyone at least has a chance to be looked at.
It's interesting. My wife's been in job search mode. Her company got acquired, and she's in global immigration.
Ah, that's a great topic, actually.
In-house, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of complexity there right now. And but she's looking for a job, and she's getting auto rejections left and right. And she is one of the most qualified people for most of these roles that I've ever seen. And that's not just that's not my bias, right? That's reality. But if she doesn't tweak her resume to the job, the company never sees her. And that is a little bit of a problem, right? So that's a fine line between bias and matching. And who is the onus on? Is it on the vendors? Is it on the company? I'm I'm just curious because she says, I don't get past the bots. And I say, well, okay, we in the recruiting space, we don't really think that the ATS is necessarily the problem, but also in reality, the ATS is also the problem.
Well, and I think what's interesting is you have candidates on one side of this wall that they can't see over, throwing stuff over the wall. And then you've got recruiters saying too much stuff's coming over the wall. And nobody's really like talking to each other. It's just this massive transaction problem. And remember the old statement, how there's too much hay on the needle? Well, now it's too many fake needles on top of real needles. And so it's like even worse. But what we found, which is so interesting, Craig, so we've built this interactive application process. We call it our intelligent interactive application, where we actually show the candidate when we match them to jobs, why they match. And then when they want to apply, we let them interact with how I match the requirement, what was missing from my resume. So it's a participative process where we've gamified this. And we've had thousands of candidates use this process. And what's interesting for one of our big healthcare customers is 95% of candidates who matched a job less than 50% self-opted out. So in other words, when you show them why they're not a match, they will not move forward. They'll wait for a better job. They'll know that they're in the system. They'll say, tell me when a great one does come up. And what's so interesting, Craig, is even of the thousands of candidates that were 85 or better percent matches, only about 25% of them went on to apply. But we've never seen those people before. So we're so busy shoveling crap, if you will, of bad candidates, and yet we're completely missing the highly qualified candidates that never make it to application. And so then we buy a LinkedIn subscription, hoping we're going to somehow, and all these people are on the step of our career site, and we've never been able to see them or engage with them. And so what's interesting is we're now building these agents that can say, hey, if a really great candidate for my rec that was a 90% or better match didn't apply within a day, let me know and I'll reach out to them, or beg the candidate to come back and send an email introducing them to me, throttle it. But you literally invert recruiters from being people that process bad and non-qualified activity to being able to engage with and do the thing they love. To actually, I mean, imagine a candidate visiting a site, seeing a great job, intending to apply, being maybe worried about the black hole problem. And later that day, you get an email from the recruiter saying, hey, I saw you came by the site. You look like a great match. Can I answer any questions or help bring you through the process? I mean, that's an experiential revolution that is possible when you change our transactional recruiting universe into a much more smart, intelligent, and interactive process. So.
But you're saying there for sure, well, transparency, this is the currency of the future. We've been talking about it for years. We've never really given that to candidates. So that is
not tech, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And then here AI is not just a tool, it's sort of a decision participant.
It's assisting the interaction. Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because one of the things that's so neat is like there's a lot of acronyms in a lot of our job descriptions, and sometimes we use the acronym in our requirement and the candidate spelled it out, but maybe they didn't spell it. But the AI just does such a wonderful job, like your great recruiter does, going, that's the same as this, and that's why we think you match this, but can you please confirm it? And that's where this interactive dance starts to happen that delivers a truly inclusive engagement experience that's experiential, not just, stuff we talk about. And you can literally transform your not only your candidate experience, but your output and your results like overnight. And that's when I think when you use it as an assistive tool and not as an assumptive tool, that's when the real magic can happen.
Yeah. And I would say in your model, I mean, we know these days sort of trust travels at digital speed. So if people have a great experience, so many people are going to know very fast.
That's right.
Exactly right. Yeah. No. And when I was at Indeed, right, we had all of a sudden we had everyone's jobs, and then everyone's jobs had screener questions, and no two candidates. When I answered the same screener questions when applying for 3 jobs, no one thought to save the answers to the questions so that I didn't have to keep re-answering, right? And so redundancy is frustration. And so they're finally kind of like getting to some reusability, which offers really good experiences. But imagine if that kind of productivity could travel across all of the hiring platforms and actually go with the candidate. Just like how, if I'm setting up reservations at restaurants on Open Door and it's my birthday or my anniversary, and now they know my favorite food that I like in my drink, right? I mean, so what's happening in our consumer life and all of the reasons we love that, the conveniences of it, are going to hopefully start showing up in talent acquisition as a lot of this new candidate side transparency and traveling. Like I can pre-verify myself, I can pre-certify myself, I can show up hire ready to your site, and then be connected to your experience, so that as I'm going through my journey, it's updating your system. Because candidates aren't logging back in and updating all of these systems all the time. They show up once, they put in a nickel, they leave, And so we think that level of connectivity that can travel across the ecosystem is what brings the next level of experiences, information, and really can power this intelligence piece, because we've just never had the candidate side plugged in to our stacks that are all over the place. So,
yeah.
Well, I like it. And it sounds to me like talent leaders, you should be asking your vendors, is your system inclusive or assumptive? That's a big point right there. I'm a big fan of that, Doug. I'm going to have to keep that one.
And I also think that it's important then to look at the, who's auditing the AI systems, who's accountable. If something goes wrong, and your shareholders will ask that, who's testifying? Because it's not going to be AI, it's the CEO. So there's a lot more questions, I think, to ask, to be smart as a TA leader. But having said that, I'm super I'm just bullish on AI and the opportunities that it offers us.
Well, okay, so this brings me to something. I, over the last couple of years, have stopped talking about what I do in terms of talent attraction and marketing and those things, and more as talent operations, right? Which is becoming a thing. And you're starting to talk about what you do as talent enablement.
Correct.
And this kind of just bleeds off of what you just said about what AI, the hope is and the promise is. It's enablement. Yeah. And so talk to me about that.
The way we think about talent enablement, so it's not just the global talent acquisition team, which has everything in TA that we normally would have, but I also oversee our people operations team, and then our we call it employee experience team. These are folks that sit in different geographies, and they help employees with performance issues and manage site complexities and immigration. And so the goal for us to put these three teams together, because there is so much overlap, but in most companies they're very, very siloed. Mm-hmm. And you always have handover issues and finger pointing, and the candidate or the new employee is the one that suffers. And so we've put this together so that we have a really smooth end-to-end employee experience, with the goal being, my number one goal is to remove friction across the enterprise. It's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. So that employees can focus on their work, on helping our travelers make memories, innovating in the space versus struggling with trying to get answers to HR questions or benefits, et cetera. So pre-boarding needs to be smooth, onboarding, the recruiting experience, questions, and help with exits and offboarding, and have that actually be a good experience as well.
Well, I love that. I've seen good onboarding and I've seen terrible onboarding. I've rarely seen good offboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big deal. Have you talked about that much?
I have not. I have not.
That'd be a good topic for you.
I
That could be
didn't
a
even,
whole.
yeah, I haven't talked about that.
It could be a whole thing right there. We may have to have another conversation. All right, so we're getting down to our time here. So I've got some rapid fire questions for you, Dani, and Doug. You're welcome to chime in as well. What's an overhyped trend? I know what my answer is.
AI for AI's sake.
Oh, I like that. That's right. I was going to say skills-based hiring.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, I agree. Oh my, I still don't fully understand that, but we're still talking about it.
It's just marketing, right? Absolutely. And instead, we should talk about experience-based hiring.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So what is an under-discussed risk in our space? That's a tricky one.
Yeah, I think for me, an area that I'm exploring, which you talked about, your wife's probably very familiar with that, sort of the immigration. And I'm not talking about just US immigration, I'm talking about global immigration and how governments are responding to AI.
Yeah.
I think a risk that we don't talk about is we can create an entire AI army outside of the US or outside of our countries to do the work that we would normally do in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take a few years, I think, for governments to understand what is happening and then figuring out how do they manage that, how do they tax that, how do they moderate that. So I think that is a developing risk that we've never spoken about.
You know, I think you're right. And I've had this conversation with some of the leaders and founders of the big EOR companies. And they're just now starting to think about things in those terms, right? Instead of just planting a flag somewhere so you can say you've got an office for tax purposes, it's actually boots on the ground, facilitating, real life-changing balance of chaos that happens when we were sitting on the couch when the shutdown was announced by the Trump administration on a Friday evening. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We're not going to allow people back in the country.
I do.
And my wife had 2 foreign nationals floating around in China that we had to figure out how to get back. Now, it turned out 2 days later, they walked it back. But I mean, there's nothing in place for that. So anyway, I love that's your take on it. That's good. All right. So I think we can wrap at that. Dani, you'll be pleased to know that in my other fantasy league, in my playoff bracket, I was the only person who picked Seattle to win.
Bless your heart.
And I won the whole thing.
Go Hawks.
I won the whole thing.
I think you beat me though in our fantasy football, so I'm forever bitter. I'm just saying.
You're only half in some seasons. So
I know.
The only credit
But I pay the price. I do pay.
The only credit I'll take is that we did give you a wonderful quarterback from Minnesota.
Yeah.
I agree. It was fun to watch. All right. So, Dani, thank you. A pleasure as always.
Thank you, Craig.
Doug, have fun in the pool.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time on Inside Talent.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Inside Talent with Craig Fisher, special edition powered by Match2. Want to give your job candidates their own amazing ATS experience? Go to match2.com for more information. Please follow and like Inside Talent on your favorite podcast platform. to stay up to date, and we'll see you next time.